For millennia, the political and civilizational pulse of Bharat was guided by a specific operating system, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, or the world is one family. This was a highly sophisticated logic of integrated existence that prioritized harmony, shared wisdom, and universal growth over destructive conflict. This diagram highlights the contrast between two entirely different ways of structuring a state. On the right is the Western Westphalian model, built on the premise that nations are competing entities locked in a zero-sum game of survival. On the left is the Indian Indigenous core, designed as a circular, interconnected network, where one note's success does not require another's destruction. Because of this interconnected logic, the Indian state served as a global teacher for centuries. Complex mathematical concepts, early medical practices, and vast philosophical frameworks were exported across continents, entirely without the use of military conquest. The world was openly invited to partake in the wisdom of the soil. The strategy relied on an open door, creating a system of pure interface sovereignty, where engagement relied on mutual intellectual exchange rather than the threat of coercion. But a national spine tuned exclusively to the frequency of harmony carries a fatal vulnerability. It lacks the internal mechanism required to recognize and process a hostile interface. Over the last millennium, a succession of invaders and colonial forces arrived on the subcontinent, operating on a completely different logic. While the domestic population applied the default setting of hospitality to every arrival, these external entities operated on a strategy of pure systemic extraction, weaponizing the open door to dismantle the host from the inside out. Look at the coat of arms on this 1808 coin. The East India Company entered the subcontinent as a simple trading entity. They used a seemingly benign commercial interface as a Trojan horse to mask a slow, methodical mechanism of total conquest. This strategy of extraction performed a deep logical rupture on the national mind. It replaced civilizational pride with a grid of foreign dependency, siphoning the entire economy's primary bedrock to ensure the nation remained a trapped consumer of systems it no longer owned. This created a 1,000-year entropy debt, a maintenance gap where the home was no longer a sanctuary but an open vault. A modern civilizational audit of this 1,000-year deactivation reveals that the logic of the family cannot survive as a one-way street of extraction. Passive hospitality, when applied to a hostile interface, functions as a suicide pact rather than a virtue. That realization has birthed a hardened geopolitical doctrine. The concept remains Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, but the updated version reads, "Lessons learnt, now conditions apply." The first of those new conditions is absolute reciprocity. If a foreign entity wishes to engage with Bharat's digital stacks, access its massive talent pool, or operate within its strategic markets, they must strictly respect its sovereign terms. The era of accepting terms dictated by external powers is over. We call this strategic autonomy. The nation is actively building new, global pathways for cooperation and trade, but fiercely retaining the power to shut those pathways down if a partner attempts to turn the engagement into an extraction. The switch remains firmly in our own hands. In the digital age, invaders no longer need to arrive with swords. They arrive through algorithms, social media grids, and financial rails designed to quietly de-anchor citizens from their own soil and extract domestic wealth. To counter this, the state is performing continuous stress tests on its external connections. The primary defensive measure is building completely autonomous domestic pillars so that our most foundational systems are never rented from foreign monopolies. This flowchart illustrates how that defense operates in practice. Notice the Unified Payments Interface, or UPI, acting as a shielded domestic financial ecosystem. By building and managing this as a free public utility, the state successfully blocked fee-extracting global toll gates from capturing the local economy. Now watch the perimeter expand. By exporting these domestic tools to allied nations in the global south, we are helping them build their own resilience against those same coercive global monopolies. This strategy is defined as interface sovereignty. It is the absolute necessity of controlling the platforms where the nation interacts with the outside world, ensuring every connection is secure. resolving the ancient contradiction between being a peaceful teacher and wielding hard power brings us to the final condition. This press conference outlines the pillars of Atmanirbhar Bharat, or self-reliant India. By anchoring this abstract idea into strict state policy, self-reliance in defense and critical technology is now treated as a non-negotiable political and spiritual duty. The millennium of deactivation occurred because the state lacked the physical means to protect its metaphysical truths. Modern military and technological readiness provides the physical shield those truths require to survive. We have moved entirely from a state of naive trust to a state of strategic readiness. We hold the shield in one hand so that we can safely extend the other in greeting. This is armed Dharma. Bharat has ceased to be a passive participant in someone else's framework. We are actively writing the architecture for a new, multipolar world. By applying the doctrine of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam with strict conditions, we offer the rest of the planet a highly functional escape route from the zero-sum trap of Western statecraft. It proves that it is entirely possible to be a generous global friend without remaining a global victim. The ultimate lesson etched into the modern Indian state is simple. A large heart can only be sustained if supported by an unbending spine. The home is open and the lamp is lit, but the gates are now guarded by the wisdom of a millennium. By ensuring that every transaction is grounded in mutual respect and sovereign integrity, the era of the free ride has ended.